Hey guys, so we have a very epic moon that we need to talk about today. We have a huge, very powerful full moon that is happening in the sign of Taurus. It also happens to be a total lunar eclipse, which is also known as a blood moon. And this is actually a very rare double eclipse as well because the planet Uranus is also going to be eclipsed in this process. This is going to be putting a huge emphasis on the Uranian themes, the Uranian vibe, the Uranian frequencies, Uranus generally. Uranus is the great awakener. Uranus rules authentic truth and conscious awakening. Uranus at this point in time is ruling our energetic shift and transition into the age of Aquarius as well. And we are likely to find that a lot of things that have been building over the course of the past year and a half sort of come to a head now. This is a major culmination, a major transition point, a major collective conscious awakening, and we are waking up and moving on from a lot of the things that we realize have been stealing our power or that we've been surrendering our power to out of a lack of the recognition of the truth of the value and the potential that we hold within. This is a process of gaining some sudden awareness in regards to value or to resources or to potential in one way or another that radically shifts our perception of ourselves and the direction, the trajectory that we want to take things for ourselves moving forward. There is a lot that is likely to unfold, to be going on, to be happening in the midst of this energy and over this next couple of weeks as this plays out, actually over this next several months as well, since we are simultaneously talking about an eclipse. We are in life-changing times right now, you guys, and things are likely not going to be the same moving forward after this activation point. So let's get into this chart, you guys. Let's see how all of this is breaking down for us, all of the planets and aspects that we have in effect for this energy today, and what we might be able to anticipate as we go through our experience today and over the course of this next couple weeks, and as this eclipse window plays out over this next several months. Welcome back to my channel, you guys. My name is Aubrey, and this is my analysis of this full moon, total lunar eclipse, blood moon that is going on today in the sign of Taurus, also Scorpio, because we are talking about the polarity, because we are talking about the full moon when the sun and the moon come into direct, exact, to the minute polar opposition to one another. That's what gives us our full moons. What gives us our eclipses is when these full moons or these new moons are happening in the sign where the nodes of the moon happen to be transiting, and right now we are in an 18-month transit of Taurus and Scorpio in terms of the nodes. So whenever we have the new moons or the full moons occurring in the sign of Taurus and Scorpio over this period of time, this is what is giving us our eclipse season. And it's a total lunar eclipse because it's happening in a conjunction today. The moon and the sun are going to be in a pretty close conjunction to the nodes themselves. And the closer the sun and the moon are when they're having their new moon or their full moon to the nodes themselves, this gives us the more full eclipse. The further they are in distance, degree range proximity, the more partial the eclipse is. But today we have our full moon occurring at 16 degrees exactly, 16 degrees and 0 minutes of the sign of Taurus. And of course, the sun will be in the sign of Scorpio as well. And we have the nodes right now at 14 degrees of Taurus and Scorpio. So they're only 2 degrees off. And that is why we are having this full total eclipse. And it's called the blood moon as well, because that is just what we call a total lunar eclipse because of the rusty red hue that the moon turns when we are going through the shadow phase of this eclipse period. And I will say, I find it so ironic, you guys, also like the timing of when this eclipse is happening. It's actually happening overnight on, Monday into Tuesday, because this is happening on Tuesday, November 8th. I should have said, I'm not sure if I said the date, but Tuesday, November 8th, it's happening at exactly 7:01 a.m. Eastern time. That is when the full moon will be exact to the minute, when the sun and the moon will both come to the 16 degrees, 0 minutes of Taurus and Scorpio. But the eclipse itself is happening like overnight. It actually is beginning at 3:02 a.m. Eastern time, which is interesting because 3:02 comes to a 5, and 5 is the number of dynamic change, which I also feel like is quite associated with the planet Uranus and this eclipse itself, because this is a Uranian eclipse. This is a very rare double eclipse, you guys, where the planet Uranus, ruling our energetic transition into the age of Aquarius, ruling this great awakening, is large and in charge is like the highlight of this eclipse itself. And we're talking about this process of dynamic change, this year of dynamic change, this period of dynamic change, literally the shift of ages. And this period of time, I'm telling you guys, like, this is a powerful moon. This is a powerful eclipse. And this is going to have a huge impact on how things are unfolding going forward and what we are aware of, our perception of reality, our level of conscious perception. You know what I mean? Like, we are getting our eyes opened in some major ways. We also have Mercury very much involved in this eclipse. Big time stuff, you guys. Big time stuff going on. But I find it very interesting because Uranus, right? This is the planet of awakening, the great awakening, waking up to the truth of our reality, awaking from this dream state as well, with Mars also in the square to Neptune right now. And on the East Coast of the United States, Eastern time, where I am right now making these reports, I find it very interesting because the blood moon itself, when the moon is fully darkened by the shadow of the eclipse, is going to be happening between 5:17 and like 6:42 a.m. on the morning of November 8th. So a large part of, the population in the United States, or, early risers, if you get like really closer to the West Coast, we're literally going to be waking up in the morning to this blood moon. Like, I will literally be sitting at my desk writing my report for the next day to this blood moon outside my window. You know what I mean? Like, we are literally, because of the time that it's happening, like, not only is it, symbolic and metaphorical for this process of waking up that is happening in this energy, but literally many of us are going to be waking up and looking out our window, and if it's a clear morning, seeing this blood moon up against the backdrop of the new day, November 8th, Tuesday sky. So also interesting, it's happening on a Tuesday, you guys, because of this 222 year and these emphasis on these twos. Whenever we have, like, I've been noticing whenever there's like an emphasis going on twos, there tends to be like some more important activations happening as well. And so Tuesday, I just think that that's like a little cute thing that we have going on as well. But anyways, you guys, let's talk about this specific energy that we have coming in. This is unusual, you guys. This is a very different vibe. Expect things to go in a way that they don't normally go. Expect to have things going on that you don't normally have going on, conversations with people, meetings with people, situations, plans that are kind of foreign to you, perhaps, like doing things randomly just because that's the way it's working out, that are just like not stuff that we usually do, out of the ordinary for our normal common routine. We could be feeling pulled in many different directions as well. This could be a very, very busy energy, very fast paced, very high speed. And there also could be like tremendous amounts of anxiety and anxious tension going on in the air. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. This is not a great energy for like mental health, okay? And a lot of people who are not on the more spiritual path, or who are not more consciously aware of these energies that are playing out, how they're playing out, what's happening, what's going on, could really, really be struggling in the context of some of these more intense Uranian vibes that are coming through with this particular eclipse. So people may be, to a large extent, just like on a more collective level, kind of really struggling with whatever revelations or awakenings or unexpected events or things transpire. And because we simultaneously right now, you guys, also have Mars retrograde in Gemini in a square to Neptune, they could really be losing it, and people could really be acting quite recklessly, flying off the handle. We may see a lot of just like loose cannon type behavior, and people just really losing their minds, or just behaving in some very, very bizarre, erratic, extreme type of ways. This moon, this eclipse, could also indicate some very big changes happening on a macrocosm level, and some, again, these collective awakenings that are happening that really change the trajectory of the path that, or the direction that things have been seeming to go. And again, this could really disorient a lot of people. We are in a time of some very fated endings, which I've been talking about all week. If we look at the chart for this moon, it's really, really telling. We have Mercury, the Sun, the South Node, Venus, all grouped together in the sign of Scorpio, in opposition to Uranus, in opposition to the North Node, in opposition to the Moon. There is a release, there is a purge, there is a regeneration, there is a detoxification, all of these Scorpio vibes, ultimately for the purpose of this profound healing and transformation going on in regards to our heart, going on in regards to our spirit and our level of personal consciousness, going on in regards to our mind and our thoughts and our thought patterns and our thought conditioning and our subconscious programming. There is a massive karmic detox and collective subconscious reprogramming that is also going along with the energy of this eclipse and of this time period generally, of the Scorpio cycle. And it is ripping off the band-aid in a lot of cases and showing us the ugly truth of a lot of things that have been going on under the surface. And through this awareness that we're gaining, we are coming to recognize true value, true potential, true worth, and true cures for things as well, true solutions, true remedies, as opposed to more surface value, symptom relief, appeasing the situation, keeping the peace, keeping the balance. We're in a period of time where, for this entire Scorpio cycle, Venus has also been eclipsed. We had Venus eclipsed, you guys, for our new moon, and now we're having Uranus eclipsed for our full moon, while we are in the midst of all of these planets conjuncting the south node of the moon. The south node of the moon is karma. This is detachment. This is release. This is moving on. This is what we no longer can give our energy to, because it's preventing us from going in the direction of the north node, from going towards our destiny, from going towards the next phase of growth and the next chapter and the next page in our personal evolutionary story, the lessons that we need to learn to unlock the potential that our soul came here to learn in this experience. That's what the north node indicates. It's, where we're being karmically pulled to, as opposed to the south node, what we are being karmically urged to release ourselves from. The north node, Uranus in the sign of Taurus, you guys. Taurus is the sign of what we hold inside and how we use that to produce something tangible externally that can create beauty or comfort or stability in our world somehow. It's the sign of hard work for the purpose of rejoicing in our splendors. This is a sign of the builder. It's where we recognize value and potential and resources, and we tap into them and we cultivate them and we mold them in order to provide or present something, again, that can give us the sense of comfort or stability or beauty and abundance in our physical, tangible world. This earth sign, this sign of building, this sign of creating, this sign of producing, that is also ruled by Venus. Value, partnership, love, wealth, abundance, luxury, beauty, these Taurian themes, these Taurian vibes, we are being asked to discover and to awaken to those within ourselves and to begin a process of cultivating them, developing our talents, developing our gifts, developing our potential, so that we can release ourselves from things that have been stealing our power and keeping us in circumstances that were out of alignment with our authentic truth, and therefore not leading us to activate our destiny or to go through a process of self-actualization or to come into our higher selves, which is really the name of the game right now, and this all-important divine mandate for each and every one of us on this individual level, because we are going into the age of Aquarius. This is the age of self-knowledge. This is the age of self-empowerment. This is the age of self-mastery. It's the age of co-creation with God and universe. And we can't do that if we are not actualized ourselves, if we are coming from a victim mentality, if we have not woken up to all of our potential and what to do with that in order to create and to share. Aquarius, Uranus, this is the energy of the individual as the individual pertains to the betterment of the overall group. This is where we are unique. This is where we have our little like eccentricities. This is where we are special. This is where we are extremely individual, but it's for the purpose of developing those things and those, very personalized aspects of ourselves into the greatest form of ourselves that we can then serve and share to the overall whole, to the greater good, and like put our little piece of the puzzle into this unfolding cosmic story that is really trying to usher humanity collectively into this next evolutionary phase of the earth, where again we are operating from a much more conscious place, and a place of much greater self-mastery over our mind and our thoughts, where we are really programming our own subconscious mind as opposed to being sort of at the whim of whatever trauma programming we may have received throughout the course of our lives. This is a dramatic shift. It's a period of massive endings, and it's a culmination point, but it's also a rebirth into the truth of our authentic selves. The eclipse energy, Uranus being highlighted and simultaneously eclipsed. Uranus is also retrograde right now. There could be some very profound things sort of hitting us out of nowhere. Flashes of insight, epiphanies, just sudden realizations that are making a dramatic impact or drastically changing things for us. There could also be, with Mercury in simultaneously nearly an exact conjunction to the sun, while the moon and Uranus are in an exact opposition to the sun. This could really have to do with information, headlines, news, conversations, interactions. Again, this extremely busy energy. Mercury opposite Uranus. Mercury is the messenger planet, and Mercury is the fastest moving of all the planets. Mercury energy is very like high speed, and it zips back and forth, and it's this mentalized energy, and it can also have a tendency to lead towards like a more higher level of anxiety or nervous tension. Then we're talking about Mercury in the opposition to Uranus. Again, on one hand, this is some massive flashes of insight that could be really hitting us about who we really are and what we need to let go of in order to go in another direction somehow that is more in alignment with our authentic value, our authentic purpose, our authentic truth. But it could also, if we are not, aware of how this process is unfolding, this could also lead to some extremely nervous energy and feeling literally like a bit crazy. Also with Mars in the sign of Gemini in the square to Neptune right now as well. This again could be some very disorienting energy, and people could be really having a hard time staying grounded and like even coping with the stuff that is playing out as this energy is unfolding. It may be very hard to sleep, and again this like nervous tension, this high anxiety, just like feeling a sense of like maybe something is about to happen or out of control too, but this just a very high octane energy. Now again, we are likely to be learning a lot, and like I said earlier, this could definitely also be manifesting as just having like a lot of unusual, out of the ordinary things going on, conversations happening. Our routines and stuff like that this week may be totally out of whack, because this is a radical shift going on. This is a period of time, like very fated energy, very destined things transpiring, and universe, I feel like, is needing to put us in different places, perhaps also than we normally are, so that these connections can be made. This is moves being made very strategically on the cosmic karmic chessboard in this energy right now, and it's definitely having a lot to do with awakening, and it's definitely having massive amounts to do with truth. And just don't be surprised if you find yourself suddenly just doing things differently, thinking about things differently, viewing things from a different lens. This is the end of a cycle. And it also has a lot to do, Uranus is also the great rectifier, you guys. Uranus puts things right. Uranus takes a situation, especially if we haven't been able to do it for ourselves. Uranus takes a a situation or a scenario and realigns it for us in a way that puts us back on track to go through the process of organic growth, organic development in alignment with this self-actualization and authentic truth. And things may honestly just sort of be like all over the place in this process. I also feel like this is going to have a major impact, you guys, on relationships, partnerships, commitments, and connections. I do feel like this is commitment breaking energy, especially maybe some long-term commitments to do with resources, finances, financial agreements, material possessions, stuff like that as well could very much come into this. But people are walking away from things that they can no longer be bound to on a soul level. And it's because, again, of this awakening to this deep, authentic truth and to this, like, it's like there's this soul calling that is arising within us now, or at least it's trying to. And as long as we are following that, and as long as we are answering that, and as long as we are moving towards that, it's like things are going to organically be rearranged for us in such a way that supports that purpose. But, if we've been ingrained in these patterns for a very long period of time that are very rigid and very structured and very controlled and very limiting and very neglectful of that spark of light within us, of that truth, of that purpose, then universe is really going to have to make some dramatic shifts and some dramatic changes and perhaps put us through some dramatic experiences to get us to move, to get us to wake up, to get us to see the truth. And that is also where a lot of this mental meltdown may be coming into this, because of the extremity of the circumstances that may be arising now. I've used this metaphor a lot over the past couple of weeks in my videos, but I really feel like this energy, this Uranus energy, this moon energy, this eclipse energy, this Scorpio cycle generally, this year is universe pushing us off a cliff to show us that we have actually had wings and can fly this whole time. I feel like universe is putting us in situations that we won't think we'll make it through, just to allow us to prove to ourselves that not only will we make it through, but we will show ourselves that we are someone that we never knew we were. And as a result of that, the value and the worth and the respect and the love for ourselves will be amplified in this tremendous way. And as a result of that, we will step into this new form of personal power. And as a result of that, we will begin conducting and creating our reality from a much more conscious level. Whereas before, we maybe would have just surrendered to circumstances, or felt helpless, or felt more in a state of victimhood, like we're at the whim of reality and circumstance. It's like what we're going through now and these experiences that we are moving towards, and the dish that universe is serving up right now, the plate that universe is serving up, is to show us what we truly are and what we truly have inside of us. And not only that, bring us to a point of self-empowerment through that recognition where we can really seize onto that and begin to do it, begin to live, begin to activate, begin to actualize. Because again, this is a collective process. Universe wants expansion. Universe wants growth. At this point in time, we happen to be here for this specific transitional period that is leading us into the age of Aquarius. And that process happens through the self-actualization of the collective of humanity, coming to a point where we can begin a co-creational process with God and universe, consciously creating our experiences as opposed to surrendering our power and unconsciously creating through subconscious fear and trauma-based programming that has been a key feature, you guys, of generations and generations now. This is the cycle breaking era. This is the cycle breaking moment. That's what this karmic detox is all about. We are breaking generational curses, if you will. We are breaking generational karma. We are ending generational cycles of trauma based on programming from one to the other to the other. This is where it stops. And it's interesting because the position of the moon itself for our full moon today, 16 degrees even of the sign of Taurus. Now, normally when I'm reading Sabian symbols, and that's what I'm going to talk about now, the Sabian symbols. And if you guys are unfamiliar with the Sabian symbols, what they are is a group of symbols that describes each and every one of the 360 degrees of the zodiac. And, when we look at a degree or a planet making an aspect, a transit, and use the symbol as an overlay, it just can give us more information about what is actually like the purpose in our constantly unfolding cosmic story in terms of that specific aspect as it's playing out. So I personally love to use and incorporate the Sabian symbols in my translation of astrology because I really love to look at the symbolic layer of things in the context of the physical placements of the planets and the meanings of the transits and aspects as well. I just feel like it really gives us a much greater understanding of the purpose behind whatever is happening at any given point in time. So that's my little spiel on the Sabians, and I'm going to talk about some of them now, or I'm going to talk about one of them now. But normally when we are reading Sabian symbols, we always round up a degree because we look at the energy and the wave that's pulling in when we're looking at the symbolic representation of the symbol. But because this full moon, just like we had for the new moon actually, is happening at exactly 16 degrees 0 minutes of the sign of Taurus, we're going to be using the Sabian symbol of the degree 16 Taurus for our full moon itself. And that Sabian symbol is an old teacher fails to interest his students in traditional knowledge. So even this position of the moon is talking about the break, the end, the information that is not continuing forward, a tradition that is not continuing forward. And that tradition is these cycles of this trauma and this subconscious programming that are detrimental to the recognition of our value, to our personal sense of self-empowerment and our ability to tap that potential to create with it, to consciously create our reality going forward. That is the trajectory of this process right now. And even the position of the moon, you guys, is talking about that. An old teacher fails to interest his students in traditional knowledge. We are releasing the lessons of the past that are not serving our growth going forward at this point in time, and we are embracing a fresh understanding, a fresh perspective of what's to come. Now, this is also being highly represented in this chart, and as this energy is playing out, you guys, as a spiritual battle. This is very much this process of breaking these cycles and going through this karmic detox. This is very much a spiritual battle that is playing out across the collective as we are working to dispel these lower frequencies from the planet generally, but also, happening within us. We are conquering our lower selves. We are slaying our inner demons. We are overcoming things that we have surrendered our power to. We are rising into our higher selves. We are standing back and stepping back and sitting on our throne. Like we are commanding our reality. We are becoming the captain of our own ship. Like we are standing at the helm, you guys. We are ready to actively play a more conscious role in creating our lives. And we are no longer willing to surrender to what we know is not fulfilling for us, is not serving our highest good, is not helping us to become the best version or to unlock our potential or to really, fill us up on that soul-based level. That's what everything is pushing towards right now. That is where we are going. It's like we're being pulled almost like by a magnet. We are being, and that really is, I feel like, kind of a decent metaphor for sort of what's happening. Like we are going through this internal vibrational shift, and then we are sort of being pulled magnetically towards the people, places, situations, events, circumstances that are going to both reflect, support, and perpetuate that process. The more that we awaken, the more that we shift, the more that we, transform and change on these deep levels and shift our preferences and, expand our mind and change our perspective, everything around us is going to shift, and we're going to begin to magnetize that which is a reflection of who we are becoming. And that is also this process that this 222 year has been trying to take us on, that is, really trying to align us with these more harmonious, heart-based, soul-based experiences, opportunities, partnerships, connections, because universe, you guys, wants us to thrive, wants us to be fulfilled, wants us to feel purpose and wants us to experience this unconditional love, because the more that we do this, the more that we become a vessel for this type of energy, the more we raise our frequency, the more this perpetuates and snowballs out. And then over time, and this is not a process that happens overnight, you guys. This is just beginning. This is, a multi-thousand year, 1,500 year, 2,000 year process that we have going on right now. But as time goes on and as this energy accumulates and as we get through these years to come, the world is going to look like a much different place, because we are clearing the subconscious karmic burden of trauma and these lower density frequencies from the planet. And in order to do that, we are breaking all these cycles, you guys. And it's a beautiful thing. We're heading towards a golden age. And we do that by one, creating our own personal golden age in this new paradigm that we are creating for ourselves, based on these authentic alignments, the self-actualization, and this fulfillment that is ultimately the result. So it's really, really beautiful where we're headed. And honestly, the position of the sun today, you guys, is telling us, in the context of what really could be some very unsettling, shocking, unexpected issues. This is crisis energy. Like, I will say that, aside from, how we can put the positive spin on it because of where this is ultimately going, and this being dominant Uranus moon eclipse, and Uranus being the silver lining planet and bringing blessings in disguise and ultimately putting things right, it's easy for us to sort of look at the bigger picture of things and say, this is where this is going, and be able to see it through the more positive light. But we can't negate to say that it is also a very, very crisis oriented energy. And like I said, I do feel, there could be some extreme violence that plays out. There could be some massive earth type situations, like Uranus in the sign of Taurus with the eclipse. There could be some earthquakes or some big powerful storms or some really ground shaking things. There could be some massive issues that are going on with resources, economies, money, supply chains, food as well. This could have a major impact on food, also oil, things like deep under the water because of this Mars square Neptune, also communication. There could be some major upsets or disruption to the internet or media or communication, or this Uranus Mercury energy, like things traveling through the air. There could be some type of unexpected communication issue, media issue, getting in touch with people issue that's going on. There could also be a lot of propaganda. There could be massive false narratives that are being projected very strong as well, with Mars ruling the Scorpio cycle we're in right now, all these Scorpio planets, and in the square to Neptune in the sign of Pisces, while we simultaneously have Mercury in opposition to Uranus. But whatever is happening, you guys, the ultimate outcome is going to be some type of an awakening. Even if it's some type of calamity that goes on, or even if it's some type of really unsettling or really unfortunate situation that plays out for us, ultimately we are going to gain something of value from it that is going to benefit us in the days to come. And again, ultimately, you guys, this is a good thing. Whatever is playing out, it will be for the better ultimately. The position of the sun itself today in the opposition to the full moon for our eclipse, 16 degrees of Scorpio, a girl's face breaking into a smile. So the ultimate outcome, you guys, universe is telling us that it is going to make us happy in the end. And again, like I said, this is all pushing us towards our own personal golden age, our own personal paradigm shift that leaves us in a place of much greater fulfillment with ourselves, with our reality, with our relationships, with our circumstances. But we are in the midst of this spiritual battle, and we are in the midst of overcoming our lower selves. We are also, it's the Chiron archetype as well. This hero's journey process, transmuting our states of victimhood into states of self-mastery through this difficult process of learning about and healing our trauma and our wounds. Interesting as well, Uranus Uranus, who is being eclipsed by this moon, who is actually at the same degree as the moon for this full moon. Remember, the moon is at 16 degrees exactly of the sign of Taurus. Uranus is actually at 16 degrees and something minutes of the sign of Taurus. I'm not exactly sure what the exact minute is, but because of that, like I said, when I read the symbols, I round up unless a planet is at 0 of a specific degree. So even though Uranus and the moon are at the same 16 degree mark, they are discharging actually two different Sabian symbols. So we are getting a dual message coming through in the context of this full moon on the symbolic level. Remember the position of the moon itself, 16 degrees of Taurus. The old teacher fails to interest his students in traditional knowledge, but we have Uranus discharging the Sabian symbol for 17 degrees of Taurus. And that Sabian symbol, you guys, is a symbolic battle between swords, the disciples of might, and torches, the disciples of enlightenment. So we have the sun, a girl's face breaking into a smile. We have the moon, an old teacher fails to interest his students in traditional knowledge. And then we have Uranus, a symbolic battle between swords, the disciples of might, and torches, the disciples of enlightenment. So to me, this is describing this awakening process that is playing out as a result of this inner battle that is going on within us in regards to the ego and the more instinctual based urges of things, the might, as opposed to enlightenment, this conscious awakening that is rising within us at this period of time, and really having to go through this process of choosing which wolf we're going to feed, which team we're going to be on, what side we're going to align with. Are we going to align with our lower self and the more, again, these more ego instinct based urges and this sense of instant gratification and consumption? Or are we going to align in, maybe the more easy way to do things? Or are we going to align with this conscious awakening and making perhaps the more difficult choices that we know ultimately are in our best interests, and choosing the path that is in alignment with where our soul is calling us to this point in time, despite the shakeups that it might cause in our experience, the lack of comfort, the more difficult road. It's which road are we going to take? The easy road where we just keep walking in circles and circles and circles, or are we going to take the more difficult road where, we really have to go uphill and we really have to endure and we really have to face some challenges and overcome some major obstacles, but ultimately we get somewhere, we get to the top and we figure out what is really important to us through this process of overcoming, and we learn our strength and we learn our capability. That is, I feel where we're at right now, and sort of what this juxtaposition going on within us might be relating to. And remember, we also have Mars in the sign of Gemini, which is also sort of going back and forth. Our energy split and divided between two polarities. So there may really be some things within ourselves that we are conquering in this energy, but the position of the moon is talking about it. We are moving on from past traditions. We are breaking with everything perhaps that may have brought us to this point at this point in time, because we're realizing that if we stay in this pattern, if we stay in this loop, if we stay in this cycle, we're never going to get to the next phase. We're never going to get to the next chapter. And as a result of that, we're never going to get to experience this girl's face breaking into a smile, this true sense of happiness and fulfillment that arrives when we come to a point where our life is a reflection of that which God, universe, great spirit put us in this experience to experience. So very interesting. We also have Mercury at 15 degrees of Scorpio. That Sabian symbol is children playing around 5 mounds of sand. Again, this number 5 coming up. I feel like this is, again, talking about this radical dynamic change in regards to our perception and our thoughts. We could be hearing some really crazy things, you guys, that really shift things for us in one way or another. We also have Venus. This is also talking about it. This is also very telling. 21 degrees of Scorpio for our full moon today. Obeying their conscience, a soldier resists orders. And I feel like that says it all as well. We are talking about this revolutionary, rebellious energy where we are no longer willing to submit to that which is not in alignment with our truth, with our values, with what we know and what we feel very strongly about in the core of our heart. This entire Scorpio cycle, at which we are the midpoint right now with this eclipse and this full moon, was all about sort of removing the surface more frivolous, more shallow aspects and dimensions of our persona and of how we relate to others, and really giving us an urge and a desire to form some very deep and true and real connections with ourselves and with the people in our lives, and to sort of like trim off the excess and get rid of, like, more simplify things and really realign and relate with that which is a reflection of this value that we are discovering deep within, instead of maybe having to, mold ourselves into various versions of this, that, or the other to keep the peace, to not rock the boat, to appease various relationships or social dynamics and stuff like that. Major relationship changes playing out, going on right now, as well as this energy is unfolding. And that's what I think, you guys. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that this is about putting things right. I think this is about ending cycles that have been out of balance, out of harmony, out of adjustment, where there's been like never ending cycles of like toxicity or injustice or wrongdoing or lack of balance or inorganic growth or truth not being supported. This is coming to an end. This is over. This is not moving forward. And it's humanity that's doing this because we're pushing back against it. We're resisting it. We're saying no more. We're saying no more to the illusion. Like I've been saying, we're breaking the spell. We're flipping the script. Like, we're turning the page. We are pulling back the curtain. We've seen enough to know that things are not as they seem, and we're ready to know the truth about it, and we're not taking it anymore. We're not having it anymore. We are actively at a point of resisting that which would wish to delude or elude or manipulate or hide or deceive. We won't be slaves to the false reality anymore. We won't be slaves to faulty programming. We won't be held in bondage by an inability to see the truth, or by a false sense of truth, or a false sense of reality, or a false image presented as real that kept us from moving along a path or developing ourselves in a way that would bring us to our personal wish fulfillment, to this place of self-actualization, to an alignment with our higher selves that allows us to experience the sense of soul fulfillment in this experience. We're done with the lack of value. We're done with the lack of self-worth. We're done with being blind to the truth of our own potential. We're done with sitting back and taking breadcrumbs and watching while other people create and other people win the prizes and other people take home the trophies. We're not doing that anymore. We're finding our self-respect. We are finding our personal value. We are finding our sense of self-empowerment, and we are taking our power back. We are cutting ourselves free. And this is happening, you guys, on a conscious level. We are severing ties with the programming from the past that has been keeping us in a state of lack mentality, lack vibration, unable to align with the truth of our wish fulfillment. And this is happening again through a resistance to the continuation of things how they've been going. We are pushing back against that which would continue to exert force or power over us in a way that is separating, dividing, keeping us out of the truth that we are recognizing about ourselves now. So that's what I feel like is happening. That's what I feel like is represented in this energy. I do feel like this is a very epic, life-changing moment in time that we are experiencing, that we are going through. I think that really not much is going to be the same after we go through this next 6-month period. And I think that we are just no longer willing to accept anything that is not in alignment with the truth of our heart, you guys. That's what this energy is saying. And, maybe this is not something that is extremely obvious and that is just like happening overnight, but over this period of time, I feel like this is what is going to be developing more and more. And I feel like it will become, honestly, like a trend. Like, I feel like this is going to be so immersive and such a collective thing that it's going to become cool again in some way to be doing our own thing and to be embracing our truth. And I feel like we're going to gain, like I've said, universe supports growth. Universe supports people who contribute to universe, to the body of knowledge, especially in the age of Aquarius. So We all have it within us, you guys. No one in this experience is lacking the spark. No one in this experience is lacking the potential. We may have gotten very, very off course, and we may be very separated and split from the part of ourself that holds the potential. But the experiences happening now, the cliffs that we're being pushed off, the towers that are crumbling, the circumstances that we're up against are happening for the purpose of digging out that potential or reattaching us to the part of ourselves that we may have lost over the years that did contain that seed. We are looking for the gems within us, you guys. We're talking about the North Node. We're talking about Uranus in the sign of Taurus. We are awakening to the riches within us, and we need to get our hands like dirty in that soil and really begin to cultivate, nourish, and develop these gifts and this potential, because this is also what is going to help us through the more unstable and unpredictable macrocosm type experiences that are likely coming over this next 6 months as well. So I'm going to stop talking now, you guys, or I'll just continue to talk and talk and talk. This is basically what I feel like is happening, what I have to say. I hope I didn't reiterate the themes just so many times that you're like, but that's what I feel like is playing out. That's what I feel like is going on. Let's grab one more card now. Synchronicity card. Let's see what we need to know in the context of this energy as it's coming out. What will benefit us to keep in mind today as we're going through this energy. And, this next period of time. Let's see. What do we need to know? There it is. What's the card? It says turn off the world, you guys. Folly is joy to him, destitute of wisdom. Proverbs 15:21. Looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for joy in externals, finding joy in lurid drama, hate-filled music, and other synthetic entertainment, you will find joy within yourself. Turn off the noise and listen to the voice within. Search for your wisdom within. Be happy within yourself and you will find joy. And I do feel like, this is what this is talking about. We are literally detaching from our past paradigm, from, our past world perhaps that we may have created around us. I feel like this is talking about this need at this point in time, like I've said, to really get centered within the core of ourselves and to begin to align with that, to embody that, so the world around us can begin realigning and reflecting back to us that which is going to bring us that true joy. Be happy with yourself inside and you will find the joy. This is the process. This is what we're going through. This is the transformation. It's going from an external source of joy to an internal source of joy, and as a result of that, the external will come. We're doing it in the opposite way. Whereas before, we may have been very detached from ourselves and tried to sort of morph ourselves or mold ourselves or, form ourselves into whatever would bring us friends or whatever we thought that people wanted us to be in order so that we could receive that joy. We're doing it the other way around now, because that ultimately is never going to lead to the true form of joy, because then all of our relationships are built on a foundation that is out of alignment with our personal truth. So they're not a reflection of us. So they can never truly be fulfilling. But this is saying, we're going through this process. We're going through this transition point. We're doing it in the opposite way now. Now we are getting centered with ourselves. We are finding our own value. We're finding our own self-love, our self-worth. And as a result of that, the world will magnetize to us, will reflect to us the relationships that will truly, the situations, the partnerships, the dynamics, the opportunities that will truly bring us that source of joy, because we've already found it within. And therefore, these new connections, these new things that are going on, these new opportunities coming in are going to be a match for that. So they will just only enhance the level of fulfillment and joy that we've already found inside. And like I said, I feel like ultimately we are in this 222 year as well on this Tuesday, and that's where things are going. So turn off the world, you guys, if it gets a little intense out there. And that is some really good advice too, because this energy could just be all over the place. It could definitely feel like radio static out there for sure today. So that's what I have to say, you guys. Message from the stars and message from God, Spirit, Universe. I hope that you guys liked it. I hope I was able to provide something for you that can help you navigate this energy in one way or another. If you guys did like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think they would like this, be interested in this type of content too. Leave me comments. I love your comments, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your feedback. I love knowing how this energy is affecting you. I have a Facebook page, a Facebook group, a website, and some other socials in my description box below. If you're into any of that, come back with me tomorrow, you guys. We will have more big energy to talk about, following right on the heels of this massive, epic, dynamic, full moon, lunar eclipse, blood moon, conjunct Uranus, double eclipse that we're dealing with today. So have a beautiful day, everybody, and until next time, bye, guys.